Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Risk Management for Better Project Management. Here at Advisicon, we have deep roots in project management. Everyone does projects, even if they're calling it programs, events, or just simply work, but they don't always use the best tools the right way for the job. Our mission at Advisicon is to deliver technology, tools, and training to maximize impact, productivity, and purpose. In today's webinar, let's look at this agenda. We're going to talk about what risk management is, why it's important, the entire risk management process, and we're going to do a couple of demos looking at risk management with Project Online or Project Server, whichever you happen to be using. But first, a little bit about me. My name is Scott Allen. I am a senior project and portfolio management consultant here at Advisicon. My career in project management started in the United States Navy and continued well into my civilian career with managing many different types of projects to include military procurement, IT build-out and installation, and software development. I've used many different project management software tools and have implemented multiple on-premise instances of Microsoft Project Server as well as Project Online. And I'm excited to be presenting this webinar and hope it will be useful to you in managing your projects. As project managers, we know that if we have a project, we have risks. Yet risk management is often overlooked in the process in favor of getting the work scheduled and the project delivered. So let's go back to the basics and talk about what risk management is. PMI writes, a risk is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on one or more project objectives, such as scope, schedule, cost, and quality. Now, this definition emphasizes that risks are inherently uncertain and can impact various aspects of a project. PMI also highlights that risks can be both threats with a negative impact and opportunities with a positive impact. Managing these risks effectively is crucial to achieving the project's goal. Internal risks are all about the things that are within our organization or our project team. External risks are things that we have less or even no control over. Risk management is the process of identifying, assessing, and managing the risks to the project and minimizing, in case of a threat, or exploiting, in the case of an opportunity, their impact. Project risk is defined by three risk factors: the risk event or identification, the chance of occurrence, and the probable consequences. Scope risks can be created by poorly defined initial requirements, stakeholder requests for additional features, also known as scope creep, misunderstandings about project boundaries, or changes in regulations or market conditions. Schedule risks can be created by estimation of task durations, resource availability, external factors, or other projects. Cost risks can be created by inaccurate initial cost estimates, changes in market prices for materials or services, schedule changes or changes in regulations, and quality risks can be created by unclear quality requirements, design or planning issues, resource skill or expertise, and even communication between team members or stakeholders. Nothing I've said in this list is all-encompassing. There are many other things that can pop up to create a scope risk, a cost risk, a schedule risk, or a quality risk. Overlooking risks is a major contributing factor as to why projects fail. Identifying risks, either threats or opportunities early, can greatly enhance our project's chances for success. That's why risk management is important. With a risk management plan and a means to catalog or track risks, we can prevent our projects from failing, or we can exploit any opportunity that will benefit our project. We can inform leadership and stakeholders of our concerns so they can make informed decisions, thereby building confidence in our project and our project team. All of these things boost confidence in the project's success and foster better communication and trust across the organization. Overlooking risks is a major contributing factor as to why projects fail. Identifying risks, either threats or opportunities, early can greatly enhance our project chances for success. Step one is risk identification. To identify risks, we can gather our team and brainstorm. We can conduct interviews with subject matter experts. We can review previous similar projects and what risks they've had. So, this isn't an exhaustive list of what can be done. There are always known risks to a project, and there will always be unknown risks to a project. But using some of these techniques will help us identify more risks before they become issues. So, you cannot assess a risk before you identify it. Assessing risks after they are identified will put us in a better place to mitigate or exploit them. Some of the questions we can ask are: is this a threat or an opportunity? What does it affect? Does it affect our cost, schedule, quality, or scope? What are the chances of it occurring? Something that is most likely going to occur is something you might want to put more attention to versus something that may or may not occur. What will the impact be? Is this something that will derail your project, or is this something you can easily just ignore? And yes, ignoring is a mitigation step if possible, or if there's a reason to. So these strategies focus on proactive measures to manage risks, ensuring the project stays on track and within scope. What are some of the strategies? We can avoid it. Change the plan to eliminate the threat. We can exploit it. Change the plan to ensure the opportunity is realized. We can transfer it. We can outsource the risk to a third party. We do this every month when we pay our insurance bill for our car. We transfer the risk to our insurance company. We can mitigate it. We can reduce the probability or impact of the risk happening, or we can just accept it, acknowledge the risk, but take absolutely no action. Then we monitor. We continuously monitor our identified risks and the risks that we've written and the risks that we have cataloged, and we identify new ones. Risk management is continuous. We use risk registers and keep them updated, and we conduct risk review meetings. Then we start the entire cycle all over again. Let's switch gears here and let's use Project Online's native risk management tool. Now, this can be found on every project site. So if we have a Microsoft project server, we have the opportunity to create project sites. So I am going to just open this up. So this is a project server. It is built out to no particular specifications, but if we select projects on the left-hand side in the quick launch menu, you see there are a handful of projects that are available, projects that are up and running. Now, in Microsoft Project Server or Project Online, you see these icons in the indicators column. This icon tells us that this is a Microsoft project file. This icon tells us that this is a SharePoint list project. This icon tells us that there are issues associated with this project. This icon tells us there are risks associated with this project. So I currently have the project site open for the project that is called The Greatest Idea Ever. If I select that, I'll go back to the Greatest Idea Ever page. And over here on the left-hand side in the quick launch menu, we see we have risk management. If we select, you can also have risk management on the project detail page. So if I select risks, we see the risks that are currently on our project. Now, if I select new item, this is the form that is already built into Project Server or Project Online. And here is where we can catalog our risks that are associated with the project, The Greatest Idea Ever. Now, my risk statements I always like to write as an if-then statement. If this happens, then something will happen. Depends on what the risk is. I would normally be very specific when it comes to my risk titles. So if I get a flat tire, then my car might crash. I don't know, but something along those lines. Here, I also have the opportunity to type in the owner of the risk, and the owner would be me. And I can also assign this to somebody else. I can assign this to anybody who is on my project team. So I'm going to assign this to Mr. David Oswald. And now I have my statuses. Status is either active, postponed, or closed by default. I'm going to make this an active risk. And the category is going to be a category 1, 2, or 3. Now, it is up to your organization how you want to define the categories. For my organization, or at least where this project server is concerned, a category 1 is catastrophic, a category 3 is minor, and a category 2 is somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to make this a category 2 risk. The due date would be whatever date I had decided that this risk is due, and I'm just going to put today's date. Now here we have the probability and impact. Remember, back on the slides, we can define a risk by its probability and its impact. Probability of 100% means that this risk is definitely going to happen when it's triggered. Most risks should probably start out around 50% unless you're confident that it is a lot higher or a lot lower. So I'm going to start this risk at a 50% probability. Now the impact. What will the impact to my project be? 5 being, again, catastrophic, 1 being minimal. I'm going to say that this is going to be an impact of 2. So probability of 50 and an impact of 2. How much will this risk cost? This cost impact should be, should the risk actually happen. I'm going to say that it will be, $10,000. That is the cost if this risk happens. Now, within these 3 areas, we can type in a very detailed account of this risk. And this will be in HTML formatting, but I'm not going to put anything in here. But then the important part is the mitigation plan. So type in a description of the risk, then you can type in your mitigation plan. 1, prevent, or title it whatever mitigation steps you're going to take. And for this one, I'm just going to accept it. And then I will type in the reason why I'm accepting, or anything else that I'm going to be adding in, and I can't accepting. So I'm just going to accept the risk. Now I have now I can type in a contingency plan, any fallback plans should this risk occur, and then a trigger description. Now, a lot of project managers that I've talked to in the past have really not bothered putting in a trigger description. They use a wait and see approach. A trigger is something that will be able to let you know when when this risk will actually kick in. So what is my trigger description on this? I'll call it a price drop from my supplier. And I will spell better my next webinar. So a price drop from my supplier is a trigger for me to be able to either save or increase my cost of $10,000. So what is my trigger? My trigger is either a date, an exposure over the threshold, or a task not completed, or other. Now I'm going to specify my own value here. My trigger would be repricing at the end of the year. So I know that at the end of the year, my supplier is going to be changing the price of a product that I need for my project. So I've just created my own trigger. So now I know, and I can be reminded if I set up reminders, that this trigger has happened. Now I hit save. And once the form is done, this is the risk that I just created. My active risk, my exposure of 1, my category of 2. Yeah. Now you can adjust this form to show whatever way you would like it to show, but that is probably for a different webinar. So this is absolutely fantastic. You have this information here in front of you. How do you communicate this information to your stakeholders? Here at Advisicon, we have made a handful of tools for just that purpose. And we have made a spreadsheet that creates a bubble chart for your risks. This one is currently not tied to my risk register that I just showed you. And there is another version of that bubble chart here showing risks. And it's an analysis slide that is available to you through Advisicon. Just email us, let us know if you're interested, and for a limited time, we will give you either one of these two spreadsheets. We also have created a Power BI report. Now, this one is directly tied to the project server that I just created that risk on. As you can tell, I've got 3 risks in here for the greatest idea ever. We've created the probability versus impact with negative impact, and a matrix by cost, and what type, and a list of risks by category. Once I refresh this Power BI report, it'll take a minute to do that, but you'll notice that my new greatest idea in the world risk shows up here in this list. Now, the great part about this Power BI report is if I change the project name to the greatest idea ever, I am now sliced and filtered specifically on these risks. And you see I have 2 in the green area, which are areas that I probably don't really need to look at, but I have this one up here that is extremely high probability, and it has an impact of 3, a probability of somewhere over 81%. I probably want to pay attention to this risk. So I can select whichever risk that is, and that happens to be this particular risk. If I select this risk, you know that changes and all of the other grids change. So using Power BI in conjunction with your risk list on your project site, you can come up with reports of this style that are easily communicatable to your stakeholders, to your leader, to your organization, and to your leadership. So in summary, risk management is a systematic process designed to identify, assess, and prioritize potential risks that could impact a project or organization. It involves implementing strategies to minimize or control these risks, ensuring that their potential impact is mitigated and project objectives are achieved. Effective risk management enhances project success by proactively addressing uncertainties and adapting to changing conditions throughout the project lifecycle. So thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions or need further clarification, please don't hesitate to reach out. Your engagement is valuable to us. For additional learning resources, explore our online academy. We offer a variety of free trainings to enhance your skills. Thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time.